Good morning and welcome back to Mobility Matters. I'm your host, Javier Betancourt, Executive Director of the Citizens Independent Transportation Trust, or CITT. We are the agency of Miami-Dade County charged with overseeing your half-penny sales tax for transportation and the implementation of the People's Transportation Plan, which is largely focused on transit. So as you know, on this program, we like to talk about transportation and mobility, but also intersecting issues that are important in our community. And at the center of a lot of those issues and a lot of those discussions are our elected officials. And we've had several on the program, generally at the local level. But today we have our first Florida legislator.
Oh, man.
Thank you. State Senator Jones. Shevrin Jones.
Yeah.
Live and in person. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And so let's talk about your district, first of all.
Yeah.
District 34, if I got that correct.
Yeah.
Tell us about your district. What is the part of the county that you cover?
So I represent, first, thank you for having me, Javier. Happy to be here. So I represent District 34, which is the northern portion of Miami-Dade County. So Miami Gardens, Opelika area. And I go as far south as Liberty City. And I go over to the Miami Beach area right at 41st Street where the Fountain Blue is at. Yeah. And all the way up to Sunny Isle. So I have a pretty diverse district.
And how long have you been senator now?
I've been a senator since 2020.
Although before that you were also...
I was state rep. So I was in the House for 8 years and in 2018 ran for the Senate. And then we had the pandemic all at the same time.
Oh, man. So you got to enjoy a lot of time in Tallahassee.
I did. I enjoyed a lot of time in Tallahassee. I've been in Tallahassee now for what, 12 years now.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But you born and raised here in Miami?
Born and raised in Carroll City, now Miami Gardens. My parents, we moved in my senior year, we moved to Carver Ranch, is now known as West Park, because my dad wanted to be closer to the church. Okay. My dad's a pastor, and my mom had just retired because she was a school teacher and a Miami-Dade County school administrator for about 34 years. Wow. And then I was raised about 3 or 4 years in Broward, but was still going to Miami-Dade schools at the same time, because at that time my mom was teaching, so you could still go to a Miami school and live in a different county. And
I saw that you also at least studied education. Were you ever a teacher? Or?
I was. I taught. So my background is in biochemistry, molecular biology from Florida A&M University. I was on my way to med school. I wanted to take a year off from med school to be able to just chill, because I had spent 4 years of just research and everything else.
Intense.
It was intense. I would be honest. But my dad was like, listen, you can't sit at home and do nothing for 1 year. So my mom suggested that I go be a teacher, so I went to go teach. And I said I was only going to do it for 1 year, and then 1 year ended up turning into 10 years being in the classroom. But I'll be honest with you, it was great. I taught AP Chemistry, AP Bio, intense courses, amazing students. And there was 1 year I did teach level 1 environmental science. It was courses that, course recovery classes, most teachers did not want to teach. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, not realizing that it would have changed my life the way it did teaching that course recovery class. And so I enjoyed it.
That's great. I would not have been smart enough at that age to join your class. I'm not now, so that's good.
I promise you.
Science was never my subject.
My students always, listen, when they walked into my classroom, I made them feel comfortable.
That's great.
And I wanted to, because I understood that they were walking into a very hard subject. Yeah. But you never know what you can get done when you allow a child to kind of explore what those, what the learning looks like. And that's what I did in the classroom. Oh, everyone landed safely.
Yeah. And good teachers make all the difference.
That's a true statement.
Thank you to all the teachers out there for everything you do.
Yes, teachers,
we appreciate you. And so now, how do you transition from that to running for, at the time, I suppose, state representative was your first foray into politics? Yeah,
it was actually when I was, the year that I taught level 1 environmental science. It was the same year that the legislature had implemented the end of course exam. And so students, after they had completed a full year of a class, now you had a test that would determine whether they graduated or not. And so the students who I had in my course recovery class, these were majority Black and Hispanic boys. And they truly wanted to get out of high school, get their diplomas. But when they failed the end of course exam, not many of them, 2 of them in particular, I saw them in the sweat and their tears of them trying to graduate. And when they found out they weren't going to be able to graduate because they failed the end of course exam, I went to the principal and I asked him, I said, why they're not going to be able to graduate? Who changed the rules on them in the middle of the game? And he said the politicians did. And I said, I'm going to run for office. And I did. And I ran for county commission first and ended up, I lost that seat. But
it was a trial run.
It was a trial run. It was actually cool because I really got the opportunity to get baptized by fire and campaigning and understanding knocking on doors and things of that nature, and then ended up getting a call and someone said, hey, listen, this seat called District 101 just opened up because redistricting just happened. And they said, you should run for this seat. I said, I just lost a whole county seat. Now you're talking about to run for a state seat?
Still licking my wounds here.
Yes. And so I ended up running and I won. So it ran unopposed.
That's wonderful. So, and we'll get into some of the things in Tallahassee in a second. But not only are you a state legislator, but those are part-time positions. So your day-to-day job, I understand you're the development director for a group called Co-op.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
So Co-op, I've been in the development space for about 15 years now. So I now work for a national organization called Co-op Careers. So Co-op Careers, we take first-generation college graduates and we place them in tech jobs, high-tech jobs, Google, Apple, Microsoft, because these are the data analysts who have graduated from college, and we place them into these courses, but not without taking them through a cohort to train them in what does it mean to get into the job market in data analytics or finance, or within finance, which is our New York branch, or graphic design. These are the areas in which we train them, and we place them into these jobs. But the cohorts are mentor to mentee. So those individuals who have gone through the program are the ones who mentor the newcomers and place them into these jobs because they now work for these jobs. And so now we working with these Fortune 500 companies has been a true pleasure in being able to place these young people. And we just opened a Miami office here, right at FIU. So it's going good. We have about 42 co-opers now. And listen, anyone want to know more about it, they can go to coopcareers.org. And
those opportunities in Miami are growing as we're attracting those tech companies.
We're driving a lot of
We just
tech
saw
companies.
that Apple is opening up a large space in Coral Gables.
They are. I mean, and Apple really is want to be a true partner to Miami-Dade County. And so I think it was just only right that Co-op Careers come here. And so I really enjoy raising money for the organization and creating these partnerships for them.
And kind of related to that, perhaps, is your service on the Presidential Advisory Council for HBCUs.
Yeah. So look, I graduated from Florida A&M University, and
Rattler.
I'm a rattler. So last year, 2 years ago, when I got an email saying that the president wanted to appoint me to this advisory board on HBCUs. I was blown away because to get appointed to one of these advisory boards, is a pretty big deal.
Right.
But particularly HBCUs, which I mean, hailing from an HBCU, but also being an advocate for HBCUs when it comes to funding and everything.
For people who live under a rock, by the way, what are HBCUs?
Historically black colleges and universities are HBCUs, and if you are a higher ed professional, you'll say PWI, which is predominantly white institutions.
Okay.
That's how they are kind of correlated. But we graduated from HBCU and now being able to sit on the advisory board to give direction to the president on what it means to ensure that our HBCUs are properly funded, are properly maintained, and that we continue to pour into these because they are very important to our country and to our economy.
Absolutely. What an honor.
Yeah, I'm excited.
You get to meet in the White House?
Yeah. Literally, we met with the president like maybe 3 months ago.
Wow.
To present our report to him in January. We met with him to present our report to him because we had been working on the report for a year on some of the changes that we knew were needed within our historically black colleges and universities. And he took those recommendations, and I think we're seeing some of the results of that at some of our HBCUs, specifically when it comes to the HBCU loan program for HBCUs to be able to apply into to do infrastructure, internal and external infrastructure, and to really update some of the things that they know that many of these institutions need, because many of them have been created back in the 1800s, early 1900s, and so the upgrades were absolutely necessary.
Wow, that's great. So envious as I'm hearing you talk. So let's fly away from DC. Let's come back to Tallahassee.
Yeah.
You just completed a session. One of how many you've had at this point as a state rep and state senator?
13, not
13.
including
Lucky number 13.
step sessions, special sessions.
Right.
Yeah.
Which are increasing in number. Seemingly every year now we have. So what has been your focus in Tallahassee?
Yeah.
If you want to speak just generally throughout your career or more specifically to this past session.
I have been big on education, of course, but it grew into some other things. It grew into being very passionate about social justice things, more particularly incarcerated women. Women are the fastest growing population within our prison systems, and just have not been well equipped to handle and deal with the needs of women who are incarcerated. And all of that sprung about after a group of women came to my office when I was in the House to express the conditions that of the prison and jail system here within the state of Florida when it came to their basic needs like feminine hygiene products. And so the first bill that I ever filed was the Dignity for Incarcerated Women, was to ensure that women who were incarcerated had access to free feminine hygiene products. And I also said that women could not be searched by a man; they had to be searched by a woman.
Well, you think that would be obvious, right?
Yeah, it was crazy, and it wasn't. And even when it was definitely bipartisan. But even when we were when I was going through the process of lobbying my colleagues on the legislation, they're like, "Chev, are you serious? This is not happening already?" Right. I'm like, "No, it's not," and they couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it at all. But it was true.
So many people are cynical about politics, and they're like, why am I going to bother going all the way to Tallahassee to meet with these folks?
Yeah.
And they're just, they already have their minds set on what they're going to do. And yet here's a good example of, no, it makes a difference.
Absolutely.
To go up there, which is a long trek for us down here in Miami.
8 hours.
Long, expensive trek too, if you're flying. But it makes a difference, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, and then people, they think of politics from the perspective of what they see on TV, and they see the bickering, but what they don't see is that there is collaboration that happens, particularly in the Senate. There's a lot of collaboration that happens. There's only 40 of us, so you have to collaborate. Because you can walk into a committee, think you got it, and you don't, because you might be 1 or 2 votes off, and that can be a very very nerve-wracking experience to walk into a space to where you're your bill about to go down in a committee. But it also it's important because I think people should be a part of this part of the process so they can see how the sausage is made, right? Because sometimes you get home, a lot of people don't know who you are, right? They know who their county commissioner is, they know who their city commissioner is, but people don't know who their congressional, state senator, or state rep is. So being able to come up to actually see those people in action sometimes changes the course of how people see politics. And no, I'm not your commissioner. No, I don't deal with potholes. But if you call my office, we will connect you with the right person. But it's still making sure that people understand who they should get in contact with to take those concerns, who they should take those concerns to.
No, absolutely. And so the show's called Mobility Matters. So at some point we need to talk about mobility.
Yeah.
And while it may not be kind of your primary focus as a legislator, I'm sure you're involved in some mobility or transportation issues. Certainly you have to take votes from time to time on state bills that come up that are related. What are some of the transportation or mobility policies, projects, programs that you're either tracking or involved in? Yeah,
so I think we can pay attention to the infrastructure bill that the president passed down almost probably a year and a half now, and that has gone to the Department of Transportation. Those dollars are flowing through the state of Florida right now to do different things. I know the legislature has approved for charging stations to be installed across the state, knowing that we have a uptick in individuals who are buying electric vehicles. And so placing these charging stations in counties and cities to be more accessible, more particularly in our rural areas so they can have access, is extremely important. But then you also look at the projects that's taking place, because we understand that here in South Florida, there are a great deal of upgrades that needs to happen when it comes to our roads, because we are growing a population down here and it's becoming extremely congested. But I continue to say that making smart investment in transportation is extremely important. We have to look at those cities who are doing it right. You look at Seattle, you look at San Francisco, you look at some of these other places who are moving in this direction. I think Florida, particularly in Miami, I think we are moving in that direction because we have advocates like Eileen Higgins who are who's very big on how we are moving when it comes to mobility and how we can get people out their cars.
Right.
That is a huge direction that I believe we need to explore more of. The Bright Line is one thing, right? The Metro Rail is one thing. People in cars is another thing. Complete streets is the one thing. The bus, our metro bus systems is another thing. I mean, we have to have a diverse way where people can
have to be
around.
options and alternatives.
Absolutely, we should have options and alternatives, but it's through smart investments, though.
Right. So one of the investments I know that the state is making, and I believe in your district, is the Golden Glades Interchange project, which I believe has been advanced.
Yeah.
I mean, it was supposed to, I think, happen 10 years from now, and now I guess the money was found.
Yeah.
Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, so I know we see the amendments that happen quite often when it comes to the Golden Glade Interchange, and as people know, it's a constant bottleneck at the Golden Glade.
Especially going from that Palmetto and wanting to get on 995 north. I hate it.
It's crazy. I mean, if you drive over there now, I know everyone is frustrated about it. But you're right. The state did, the Department of Transportation, shout out to Secretary Miller, who is amazing.
She's great.
She's amazing. And because of her leadership, you can actually see that some of these projects are being moved up because of the need that's happening right now, right? Again, growth in the population. As far as the specifics within the project, I do know that they're trying to move as fast as they can without it being a interruption to the daily flow. But it's hard to do that because we know that in between the hours of 7 and 9, 6 and 9, that going north, individuals coming to work into downtown, it is a extremely hard thing to try to manage, but it's either we do it now or we never do it at all.
Right.
And so I think as we look at these developments that are actually happening, people can actually go into the Department of Transportation website to look at alternative routes that they can take. They can see the time frame in which it is taken to a lot of these projects to happen. But hey, listen, if we are looking to upgrade and we're looking to figure out what is the best way for people to begin to move freely on our roads, some of this stuff has to happen, but it is also important upon us as elected officials and others to be more informative. I'm even guilty of it, to be more informative to individuals when it comes to these traffic woes that will exist for quite some time as we do these upgrades.
And one of the things I found, and it's reflected on all the guests that we have here today, is this is not a partisan issue. Okay?
No.
Transportation and traffic and congestion is, everyone suffers from it.
Yeah.
Everyone wants it resolved.
Yeah.
Right? So it's one of those issues we could all get behind.
Absolutely. Democrats and Republicans are pissed off all at the same time when they are stuck in traffic. Exactly. I promise you. Everyone wants to figure out what's the best way for us to do this better and to do it right. And when we look at transportation here within South Florida, I think that we have options, but we also have a limit because we have water.
Absolutely.
And so we have to work within the means that we have. But I will say that we are not going to be able to build our way out of the traffic problem that we have.
Right.
I think I will keep saying it, is that we are going to have to, we need to explore what the smart investments look like when it comes to transportation and moving people on our roads.
Okay, you use the magic word smart. So let's talk about the SMART plan.
Yes.
And as a reminder, that's the county's plan for expanding rapid transit to largely every corner in the county, right? So one of the key corridors, actually two of the key corridors are in your district. So you have the north corridor of 27th Avenue and the northeast corridor that will track along Bright Line same tracks.
Yeah.
What is your sense of those two projects? What are you hearing from the community? I could tell you that at our last meeting at the CITT, we did hear from some folks in Miami Gardens about their frustration with the lack of progress on the North Corridor after many decades of promises. What has been your involvement in those two corridors?
I've had no involvement, but I do know Chairman Gilbert, him being on the TPO, was very adamant about the North Corridor being a priority. And I understand the frustration that has come up when it comes to Miami Gardens residents because of the time frame that has come to the North Corridor. But I think I also want to draw people's attention to the SMART plan and how it is working. We even look at the Tri-Rail that's now going into downtown Miami. Yeah. I mean, these are part of the SMART plan to be able to help individuals move from north to south in a very efficient way. Right. But again, these are things that's going to take a lot of time to be able to do it. But that also includes even within our South Corridor. Shout out to Keone and Danielle Cohen-Higgins, who want to make sure that the South Corridor, which, the truth be told, South Miami get the short end of the stick sometimes. Right. But when we look at the SMART plan, I think it is the investments that have been made and the investments that are happening right now. While it will take time, the progress that's being made, slow, but it's needed and it will happen. And I think people should understand, that once it's done, it'll benefit all of us. And credit to the state, they have been a good partner. 100%. So when we've gotten a project to where it's ready for state funding, that funding has come through. So $100 million in state funding for the South Corridor. I'm sure there will be state funding for the Northeast Corridor and the North Corridor as well. So I'm almost sure. And again, I mean, that's leaders like Secretary Miller, leaders like Chairman Gilbert and others, and the mayor, who are working to ensure that those dollars are come down is extremely important. And I will say, Eileen Higgins was in Tallahassee. She probably was there more than we were. I'm so serious. I wouldn't doubt it. I'm serious. I wouldn't doubt it. Specifically on the transportation, the SMART plan, and getting dollars from the Department of Transportation to make sure that these projects are moving efficiently. Even so much so, going to Washington, D.C. to work with our congressional members, Congresswoman Wilson, in order to bring these dollars. So, and I'm happy that you made it clear that this is not a partisan issue, right? Because you got to meet with all of the stakeholders when it comes to this making sense. Because why? Even those individuals who are in positions of power have to ride on these same streets. So they understand the frustration and understand the need also. Well, listen, we're running out of time, but I did want to plug a couple of things that you and I have in common. Remember, we're both burrowing owls. That's right. FAU, Atlanta University. That's right. What's our sign? Is it like this? I don't even know. I don't even know. Yeah, their basketball is doing pretty good. They are doing good basketball. I don't know where that came from. And then Leadership Florida. Let's plug this great organization. Yes, everyone should join Leadership Florida, please. I mean, I'm class 20 I'm 32. 32. I'm class 32. Class 40. And you're class 40. Right. So shout out to Leadership Florida. Yeah. If you're interested in joining Leadership Florida, please visit their website and apply. And actually, if they're interested in learning more about you or your district or the issues you're working on, where can they go? You can go to ShevrinJones.com to learn more, or you can go to the Senate website to find out more about how you can get in contact with our office. And our office is regularly available and accessible, and we'll help anyone. We have an amazing staff. My chief of staff, Kai, who is absolutely amazing. You got Patricia, you have Janice, who's in the office. They are working tirelessly to make sure we handle the needs of people. So if you need us, call us at our office and we'll be happy to help you or put you in the right direction. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, Senator, thank you for taking the time to be here today. Thank you for everything you do as a public servant, but then also, with co-op. I appreciate that. You're doing some great things. I appreciate it. Keep it up. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Folks, that's all the time we have here for Mobility Matters. Once again, we'd like to thank not only our guest, Senator Jones, we'd like to thank community newspapers for hosting us here in this beautiful space and producing the program. To learn more about the CITT, please visit our website at miamidade.gov/CITT. We are looking for members to join our board of trustees and also folks in the community who regularly ride transit to become a CITT ambassador. So visit our website, learn more about those opportunities. In the meantime, we'll see you at our next program.